I think that was a good way to start the evening. And like I said, we wanted this to be a conversation. And so what we'll do is, rather than me direct any questions, I'd like anyone who has something they'd like to ask to raise your hand, and Kathleen will come over to get this thing started.
I have two questions, and so I'll just ask them, and then you guys can take them in whatever order. Is there a community kitchen available in Kitsap County for canning and preserving in large batches for people who aren't commercially engaged in that practice? And is there a zoning designation in Kitsap County for farms? And if not, what's the best way to address that? Thanks.
I guess I'll answer the zoning question.
One, yeah.
Yeah, there's an agriculture zoning, and actually the Kitsap County Department of Community Development is reviewing that now, and I think it's through August that they will be reviewing it, and members of the Food and Farm Policy Council will be probably engaging more people in the public to help give some very knowledgeable answers or recommendations to the Department of Community Development. But they do have, I think the online survey may still be up, and you could look at the Department of Community Development's part of our Kitsap County website and answer that. In terms of community kitchens, I think there are 3 that are available to be rented.
You know where those are, or who someone would speak with?
I know Farm Kitchen is one, and
right downtown here.
yeah,
On 4th Street?
across the street from Fresh Local, but I don't know the name of it. Evergreen, thank you.
I don't know the name of the third one, but I've heard of it.
But
They're not large scale, really, as far as large batch production of jams, jellies, or anything you're going to preserve.
But these are the kinds of questions that if we can get out there and get that conversation going, several of our websites can start to provide some of the answers as we find them.
Yeah, one of the things we'll try to do, we've created at kitsapsun.com, kitsapsun.com/local food is a site that it will host all of the columns that these folks wrote for our opinion page. It will have a video from tonight's presentation. We also have a map that identifies all the farms or producers in the area who you can go visit for Mason County, Kitsap County, and Jefferson counties. And if there's any questions that are kind of hanging out there like that, we'll try to get the answers up and put them there.
One other possibility that we've been talking about is using school kitchens. Some of them are only heating kitchens, but there's one school that's going to be rebuilt on Bainbridge that, that will be part of the plan, is to create a community kitchen, one that the community can use when the school's. It might also work, I would think it would work in the rest of the county.
I would say too that there are some groups that are talking about ways of, because you don't, in some cases, really need a really large facility to produce a lot of, say, jams and jellies, or I've seen commercial kitchens built on farms. So there's really a lot of potential, and I think there are a few farmers who are thinking or looking at it in pretty innovative ways. The other thing about that kind of food processing factory, if you want to put it that way, regardless of scale, there's another jurisdiction that is very supportive, very helpful, and that's the Washington State Department of Agriculture. Their food safety folks. They actually would license, in some cases they would license a facility, and it's a lot different than some of the other facilities that you may have used or be considering to use. Local health district does have some involvement with your typical commercial kitchen, restaurants, schools, but there's a way, and again, I'm getting into much. You want to do a search for the Washington State Department of Ag Green Book, and you can get all kinds of information on a wide variety of topics, including the idea of value added and processing and what's required and who to talk to. Their most recent edition, you can get it in hard copy if you want, or it's in a digital format in PDF file. You can download it.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
Good evening. My name is Corrine Stockton, and I'm with the South Kitsap Helpline Food Bank in Port Orchard. And hopefully you've read in the Kitsap Sun a few times that we've just purchased the Port Orchard Nursery to become a sustainable food bank. We are growing our own vegetables, which is sorely needed because the donations we get from the grocery stores usually are donuts and cakes and cookies and white bread, and so we're so thrilled to have our new location. But part of our long-range plans is when we raise enough money, hopefully through grants and donations, when we raise enough money to tear down the old lath house on the property, we will be building a commercial kitchen that will be for use for rent as part of our revenue generating program, but it will be for the public to use. So that is and hopefully in the next 3 to 4 years we will have that up and going. So and I do invite all of you to, not all at once, to come and visit us at the nursery and see our new production and our gardens. I just planted 100 tomato plants, and we're just going strong. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Eugene Brennan, and I was wondering what the members of the panel might be able to suggest or do to help the Bremerton citizens to convince our city council to decriminalize hen ownership in Bremerton.
Free the chickens. Well, we have somebody here tonight. I saw earlier somebody walked in with a petition. So if those of you that are citizens of Bremerton can certainly sign that petition tonight. Deborah McDaniel, do you want to talk about that? Oh, okay.
You're going to stand up quickly.
Yeah, you can see me after the meeting if you have questions about it. I'd be happy to talk with anybody who's got questions or concerns. Thanks for everybody's support.
I just saw.
I think we have a city council member in the audience also. I hate to point you out, but we have two. If you'd stand up briefly.
I'm Greg Wheeler, City Council also, and you can ask me any questions that you would like to about city chickens. I'd be happy to answer.
Good.
Keep egging them on.
Well, I would like to say that I would hope that the city would come around to acknowledging the value of people to raise some protein on their property. And some of you have heard the story before. It was when the Banny chickens that we had at 1932 Burwell Street kept getting out into the alley, and the people complained about them, was one of the catalysts that drove my family to the country. So it's been a long time problem, but I think that with the right management and setup, it's certainly an appropriate thing to have within the city limits. It's accepted other areas, and I think it's time that Bremerton rethink their position on that, especially with the value of fresh local food.
As Arno mentioned, you need 3 things to grow. And I would like the council to address one of those to us, or the panel to address one of those to us. And that's the concerns with water supply, pollution of water, well rights, water rights, and the ability to expand our farms based on our ability to get water.
Well, I'll start off. The KCAA last year had a topical meeting in this room on that subject. And we invited, I'm not going to remember names, but we invited the gentleman from the Department of Ecology who's in charge of water rights for Western Washington. And we had a geohydrologist from the Kitsap Public Utilities District, and Jim Hart as a commissioner of West Sound Utilities District in Port Orchard. And there, from what we learned that night, there are some ways under what are called exemptions to water rights for farmers to store and utilize water through the dry seasons and collect it during the wet seasons. And I know the county has done a lot of work on mapping projects for the water basins. And what I learned from that meeting personally, listening to all the experts, was that there's a disconnect between the demand for water from domestic supplies. During the dry seasons, most of us who live in suburbs or cities, which is most of the population, have voted themselves the right to utilize potable water for irrigation of gardens and golf courses and what have you. And because of that water use during the dry seasons, it requires capacity for water systems of about 3 times the normal water usage during other times of the year. And that giant demand has used up most of the water resource here in the county. It's pretty tight. So if farming is going to become viable and have water available to it, there's going to have to be some new arrangement between use of water during the dry season in populated areas and that which might be reserved to farmers during the dry season, which they need. And it's a state issue, and I believe the county's involved in it at some level. But I think what we can all do in this room is become more educated about that, and start to work with our water suppliers and people who are allocating water for various uses, and put some priorities on farming use. Farmers comprise about maybe 2% of the population, so when votes come up, they lose. And so people who live in cities and in suburbs have to become educated and have to, I guess, rearrange their priorities on water use and try to help our farmers out.
Charlotte, do you want to tell us what if that's one of the issues your group is going to address?
Actually, the council is interested in the question of water rights, and the Board of County Commissioners has declared water as a resource as a policy of ours, and so that we're looking in terms of how to make sure that we are as responsible stewards of water quality and quantity as possible as well. And even having some workshops for the board to learn about reclaiming wastewater to higher standards so that it can be used as potable water. Rather than returning all of it right back into the sound, because right now that's where all of our wastewater is, after it's treated, is put. And there could be some land uses that it could be put back to if it were recycled to a higher class.
Alex, actually go ahead if you want.
I was going to add that the typical farm has a forested woodlot or forested acreage to it, and whether you realize it or not, even today, a significant percentage of Kitsap County is covered with trees, which is really good, and it really helps protect against surface and stormwater runoff, and it does its thing in terms of helping the precip infiltrate into the ground, aquifer recharge. So the point of all this is a lot of you own land, you have some timber. It's important to keep those trees on the land because they really are helping agriculture, helping everybody, but they're also helping agriculture. Of course, trees can be not be your friend if you need more sunlight to grow your crops or your pasture, but it's important to realize that we not only need to preserve the ag land we have or the use of our land to produce food, but also our forests, because they provide a really critical, they really factor in heavily on the water issue.
Alex, I was going to ask if your organization, you were talking about getting regional networks together and things like that. Is that something that, is this an issue, I'm sure you hear it from around the sound, is that something that kind of regionally can be addressed at the state level or taken up there?
Well, I'm not sure about how we would go about addressing at this state level, but it's certainly something that percolates up in some communities more than others. Up in northwestern Washington, where the dairy is still pretty heavy part of the industry, dairy is a real big water user. And so if you were looking for other counties to talk about how they're navigating water rights, I would say go and talk to Sustainable Connections, a nonprofit up in Whatcom County, and they might have some great ideas for how they've gone about working with this situation.
I just want to say there are many more ways that we can be managing, we as individual household members too. Surface water is something that we have quite a lot of, and even in addition to the trees, we are encouraging rain gardens, and some of the county's surface water management money is being used by the Conservation District to encourage more rain gardens throughout the county. So I would encourage you to think about if you do have a lot of runoff in your yard, or you want to retain a little bit more water in a very attractive way, rain gardens is a good way to do it.
I'd like to ask Sally if she knows if there's any system in Kitsap for identifying and promoting restaurants that use local organic food.
Excuse me. I don't know that there's a system. I mean, we have been doing it on our website and in our e-news, trying to showcase those restaurants, because we actually have had just 2 open on Bainbridge, and a 3rd one is in the wings. One of the things we've been working with is an organization out of Portland from Eco Trust in Portland called Food Hub, which is an online system of connecting producers and consumers, especially it's more of a business-to-business type of connection, so that producers can sign up on the Food Hub website, and then all the restaurant schools and institutional sorts of things can make that connection. And hopefully, if something like that gets a little bit more play, and if we can get that moving, it'll be easier for restaurants. I mean, we've talked to restaurants in our area, and it's just a matter of they need consistency, they need convenience. You know, they need to sit down at their computer and order what they want and know that they'll get it exactly the same. You know, there are some restaurants obviously, you know, want to cook whatever's fresh that day if you want to bring it to their door, but most restaurants need a little bit more consistency. So we are working, that's our attempt. I mean, we do spotlight restaurants that do that. Agapass Cafe is one of them, Mora in Hallsbow, and that's what we've been doing. So, but nothing formal beyond that I know of anyway.
And we will be doing that too, and probably working with Sally. But I would like to point out that Monica Downen, who is one of the owners of Monica's Waterfront Bakery in Silverdale, is our buy local person on the council, and she knows lots of people who have restaurants in Kitsap County and can help you figure out who might have organic food. And we will continue to make that information available as we get it too.
Is it okay if I jump in?
Yeah.
So I would just add a plug for Puget Sound Food Network, which is a project of Northwest Agriculture Business Center. It's a program that's focused on also creating those market efficiencies, allowing restaurants to source more efficiently from local producers. Although it has a slightly different strategic sort of vision, which is they're more about relationship management and human-to-human relationship management, whereas Food Hub is an outstanding program. Don't get me wrong, it's an outstanding program. They're focused more heavily on technology and making those connections through technology. Both programs are worth taking a look at if you're trying to hook into some new marketing strategies online.
I guess my question goes over sources, water and dirt, and then what was just brought up as well. And that is for restaurants to be required for composting. There's some restaurants that do composting, and that's nice. But there's a lot of restaurants that do not do composting. And there's a lot of restaurants that have been grandfathered in and that do not have to follow certain laws of the city as far as waste and products because of what their facilities did not have. And another, to incorporate more compost obviously will create more dirt and space. And then as far as local buyers, is there something the city could do to promote a restaurant to be able to give them a reason to buy locally and compete with the FSAs and the Cisco's and the larger companies of the regions who truck everything in? And and also into the economics for mixing in hydroponics. In Arizona, there's a hydroponic company that produces tomatoes, and that's it. And they're very large, and they do very well. So the question is there's a lot of encouraged thought for change in these things to happen, but what's the percentage that this region, the peninsula region, which I'm new to here, is going to put into making these things happen and taking these suggestions forward and getting into the communities and the schools that have heated kitchens. Most likely their lunches aren't the most healthy lunches. And with the kids and property, can you send kids out to recruit property owners to donate, auction, and incorporate part of their land that they have acres for 2 horses, and they're just kind of doing their own thing?
I think that's a great question.
Yeah,
it's a whole lot of questions, actually. And we'd like to tether you to some of the food chains so that we can take advantage of your questions and get some help in reaching further out into the community to get some of the answers. I just heard a story this weekend about a school district that was not in Kitsap, that had decided after much discussion to use local produce, and they didn't believe that kids would like it. And they were pleasantly surprised that actually there was far less waste of the fresh foods when the kids had access to that at the schools. And so that school should be a good ambassador for buying locally for other jurisdictions, other school districts, and other areas. So we might try to access that avenue as we go forward. But the question about waste at restaurants is one that I've been asking recently, and we at Kitsap County have an excellent solid waste division that does, it's actually reached out to the schools with a Food to Flowers program, so that kids at elementary grades, and I can't remember what the program at junior high is called, are composting their waste at lunchtime, and so that they're watching it become soil again. So those are some of the things that we do. The question of the larger mass restaurant use is a little more complex, and so that as the solid waste folks begin to work with the certainty and the volumes through the school districts, they will perfect these larger scale projects, and will then be able to pick up at restaurants more than they can now.
It's difficult to do that. In our area, the local disposal company has just started this year picking up waste from restaurants, but it really had to be a process that was vetted through a lot of sort of health agencies and things. So right now it is a service that's available, and I don't know how many restaurants have taken advantage of it. I know that they were doing really well. They started actually at the local grocery store to sort of test the system and see, because it's hard for people to know what to put in what bins and how that works, and it just took a lot of work to sort of refine it. But now at this point it's trucked to EMU, and they turn it all into compost and send it back, or other places in the county. So I think it's a movement that's afoot.
Well, if one of your questions was about incentives, I would like to make the comment that, businesses, of which there are a number here represented tonight, respond to what consumers ask of them. And they respond through price, and they respond through customer loyalty. We talked a little bit about, I think somebody mentioned capital as one of the requirements to build local food networks. And there ought to be a way where we all as consumers, we certainly can spend our way, we can buy our way, buy products from our local businesses and support them that way. That's a choice you can make. But one thing that more of us could do and would benefit from doing is through savings and investment, and finding ways that we as individual investors or groups of investors can invest in our local community. You know, it's just a wild guess, but with 95,000 families in the county, you know, there might be billions of dollars of savings that are invested in 401k plans or pension trusts or whatever. And I'm just guessing again that probably zero of that is invested in local businesses, because there is not a good way, there's not a convenient way, a safe, legal way for investors to engage in small businesses like that. But I think consumers and farmers and businesses can all work together to form some new relationships that way, to create some new institutions, if you will, or use existing ones and modify them to get investment capital that's directed and has a purpose behind it. And the purpose is, well, you know, we like you, we like your business, we like the fact that you're recycling your food out of your restaurant, and we want to see that you survive and thrive through the lean months, of which there are here in the county. And we prefer that over somebody else, so we're going to help you.
I would love to jump in on that one. I totally agree with you, Jim. This is one of the lowest hanging fruits available, something that we can all do to help out this regional food system. That is, figure out ways to invest our money into the regional food businesses. And there are some great precedents that are starting to solidify out there. Local Investment Opportunity Network, LION, which is up in Jefferson County, is a group of investors who are interested in finding local businesses that they believe in and putting their money towards it. It's run by James Frazier, who's a local advisor, financial advisor. And Slow Money Northwest is an organization that I'm involved in Seattle, and we meet about monthly. And it's a group of angel investors. I'm not one of them at the time, but a group of angel investors who get together, and we're trying to build strategies for how we can transfer wealth and really put our money where our mouth is and really start to invest you know, our future, invest in our future, invest in this region's future. There are also some securities, some legal frameworks that are really exciting. In 1929, at the Great Depression crash, before that, regional markets were much more well established. There wasn't really, you know, the national stock market was pretty nascent, and that's part of why it failed. The securities, the safety structure wasn't there to make sure it was okay. But there exists in Washington State, and Washington State's one of the leading states, a whole set of exempt securities, such as small company offering registration, that allow small businesses to go out on their own and offer up investment opportunities to their local community members at a low cost, and you can do it yourself. And two examples of that, Ballard Organics, the soap company, is just released a small company offering registration, so you can learn more about it on their site. I'm not endorsing it, I don't know if it's a good investment. And Farm Power Northwest, who's creating bioenergy on their farm, is also another company that's doing a small company offering registration right now. So that's great. I totally believe that that's a new opportunity that's out there to support the community.
The other thing, too, I just want to remind, especially of those of you in the audience that are primarily consumers, and that is, I mean, there are some systems in place that have shown some real promise in the last 10 years and a little bit further. And one Charlotte referred to, and that was the formation of farmers markets. Depending on what day it is and how you count them, Jackie could straighten me out, but 8, 9, maybe 10 farmers markets are operating. And some markets have multiple day more than one market day. So patronizing or being a patron of those farmers markets is creating that demand, and it is basic. I do remember my basic macroeconomics, supply and demand, and farmers need to know that they have customers. And I'm not, you know, somebody I'm just preaching, I guess. The other one is community-supported agriculture, CSAs. Because what's really cool about that, and there aren't enough of them, and it's hard work. It's quite a commitment on the part of the farmer, but they're actually, you know, you subscribe, you're basically prepaying for your food for the season, and that's cash up front. That's an investment in that farmer, and you share in the risk, and you share in the joy, or the bounty of it. All as a CSA member, and so those are really, really powerful mechanisms to And basically, also, I would say that there's just something that's different today than 10 years ago, or certainly 15 or 20 years ago. There's always been people farming. There's always been a market somewhere you could go to. Pike Place existed, has existed for over 100 years. But there's really something grassroots that's occurring here, and we have momentum. How do we get more momentum, gain more traction? How do we get more food into the system? I'm really kind of at the base about more farmers producing more food, but I know all of it has to come into play. You can't just have a lot of food and no way to distribute it. You can't have a lot of food and not have any way to either get it processed or even help people get it processed. I've been thinking recently, wouldn't it be cool if all the farmers that are going to that are at farmers markets would have, say, 10% of their customers buying bulk produce to process. Now, I don't know what level of bulk produce, like bushels of stuff, are being purchased by consumers, but to me that would be almost wouldn't that be great, Jackie? It'd be great. So green beans are in season. Everybody wants their bushel of green beans, and then they go home and they freeze them or can them, But we're not quite there yet. But yet that mechanism exists. It could happen.
And then we would be eating locally all year long.
All year round. That's right.
That
Well, let's go a little step further
Yes,
to my
too.
dream.
Your dream. Okay, Nikki.
Poor Jackie, and we're referring to Jackie Aitchison, who's in the front row tonight, who's the Paulsbo Farmers Market manager.
Oh, yeah.
She's also the executive director of the Washington State Farmers Market Association and bears a lot of responsibility, hard worker. I share with her many times the vision is that we are now ready to develop that year-round market. We have consumers asking for it, but I won't expand a whole lot on this, but we have to back up. We really need to grow more farmers. We need to have more of a create more of a food supply, and it can be done, but it has to be a partnership, and farmers need help. There's no two ways about it. That's mostly what I say, but I run into it a lot, and people are giving me the message that Saturday, for instance, at the Paulsbo Market from 9 to 1, that isn't an opportune time. There's other times they would like to shop, and they would like to do that more than one day a week. So the investors have your ears open. Developing a market of that type is a fantastic, a wonderful type of atmosphere to draw people together. I love the market so much myself, and as many of us experience when we start out, we often go as farmers and spend more money than we make. But it's a wonderful opportunity, a really wonderful opportunity, and build relationships and camaraderie among the vendors, and a very helpful atmosphere. But we're really ready for that, and we're ready for it in more than one area of Kitsap County, in my mind.
Jackie, do you want to say anything about that? You maybe give us an update on the idea of a year-round market in Kitsap County?
Well, I keep talking to the vendors at Paulsbo, and I can't convince them to be like Ballard. I need to stand up. I can't convince them to be like Ballard in West Seattle and U District, and let's be outside under our canopies together. But there is customer demand. I know most of you that shop at a farmer's market would love to be able to do that year-round, but we really do need some kind of an inside facility or a covered facility. And there's been talk, Arno and I and Nikki and Jim and several others probably in the room, we serve on the Kitsap 2020 Working Ag Group, which is a committee under the Kitsap Economic Development Authority. And we've been talking about the need for some year-round facilities. And we've, bounced around the community center in Silverdale, the fairgrounds. But as long and large as our county is, the real answer is some kind of facility in South Kitsap, Central Kitsap, and North Kitsap, so that we don't all have to travel so far. I know I don't come into Silverdale unless I really need something, and I'm sure there's a lot more like me in our 3 distinct communities. So it's a real need. The farmers have been working on growing year-round. There have been some wonderful educational opportunities that Kitsap Community Agricultural Alliance has done. So I think we're ripe. We just need, you know, a place that's affordable, and we need it in 3 places in the county. So one other thing, the farmers markets are all doing great in Kitsap County this year, and a lot of them did great last year too. In other parts of the state, especially in the intensely urban areas, the farmers markets were very flat. Didn't increase in customers, didn't increase in sales. Not so for the farmers markets in Kitsap County and in other suburban areas. So thank you for shopping at your local farmers market. And you can shop at a farmers market just about every day of the week here in Kitsap County, except not Friday, not Monday. And it's wonderful. And one other thing, like Alex, you know, I don't have a lot of money to invest in my local farmer other than, you know, I've had CSAs from time to time, and I regularly buy from local farmers. But the Kitsap Poultry Growers Association, you can become a member for $25, and there's information on the back table. For a $25 investment, you'll be able to invest in a WSDA-approved processing facility. It's going to be mobile, that our poultry growers here in Kitsap County can use to process their poultry, and then that poultry will be able to be sold directly to us at the farmers markets. Right now, you can't buy poultry at a farmers market unless it's been processed in a WSDA facility, which we don't have one in Kitsap. And so you have to buy it directly from the farmer's farm. So for $25, you can become a member and help make poultry at the farmers markets a reality.